Hello, today we're going to go over chapter 1, the human organism. This particular chapter 1, we're going to go over that human anatomy and physiology. That I wanted to focus on that one because there are different courses we can take, maybe vertebral anatomy. One point I took vertebral anatomy, but this is that I study all the animals with the vertebra. But here we're going to focus mainly on human anatomy and physiology. So everything we study, terminology we use it, so terms and things, planes, these are the things we study based on the human structure. So this particular chapter introduces a basic human anatomy and physiology, focusing on the structure and functions of the human body. It covers essential concepts like the characteristics of life, organization of the body, and the importance of homeostasis in maintaining health. So for this slide, mainly introduction to anatomy and physiology. Make sure you know these definitions of what is anatomy. Anatomy is the body structure. It can be cell structure, tissue structure. Then here physiology is the functions, how they function, the structure. And based on structure changes, the function also going to change. So here functions we're going to study. Then we're going to, some of the structures are microscopic. That means you need the microscope is a tool to see those structures, to examine that structures. We're going to see some of them in the lab. For example, some cells you need to see. If you wanted to study that one, you have to look at the microscope to magnifying that structure. So you can study that particular cells, or that maybe organelles, some instance. So we're going to study. So in this definitions over here, everything they hear that they don't require microscope. Without microscope, we can study about regional or systemic or surface. So this one, other one required microscope. Those are the cell cytology or histology. Histology are that tissue. Histology is the study of tissues. Cytology, study of cells. In this slide, we're going to talk about anatomical imaging. Look at all of them. This anatomical imaging technique helps us to visualize the internal structure of the body. Or all these. These include maybe X-ray, which create what? Radiographs. The another one is ultrasound that produces sonograms using sound waves. Next one is computer tomography, CT scan. This is computer analyzed X-ray imaging. The another one is angiograph. Angiograph is it's almost like a CT scan. They use has a difference in areas. So then MRI is very expensive procedure. So sometimes the doctors won't let you do MRI for the diagnosis for purpose in that beginning. They will tell you to do you ultrasound. Then you have to come back and do that MRI. So they use that radio waves and the electromagnetic field for detailed image. The another one is a PET scan. that detect that metabolic state by using radioactively labeled glucose. So these are the different anatomical imaging techniques we use. So you can see this X-rays, all these techniques we seen that one. This for those for those taking this course. Um, I know some students they want to go for X-ray or CT technician. So these are numerous job opportunities in the field of medical imaging. We in the San Jacinto College we do have um, these courses available. Some of them, I know MRI is there in the center campus. This careers including radiographic technologies, ultrasound technicians, MRI technologists, and also nuclear medicine technologists. These roles are crucial in healthcare, aiding in that diagnosis and treatment of various conditions through advanced imaging techniques. So if you're interested in any of these things, maybe this is maybe you can look for this courses available in college and college. So here physiology. Physiology is what? Study of that functions of those structures and structures respond to the stimuli, how they function. So based on that internal conditions like pH or temperature or acid, that pH is acidity, then other sodium, potassium, that level, all these things, conditions then constantly changing with the environment, for they have to maintain that one. So the physiology work respond to that changing that stimuli. Consider operations at many levels, like we said, cell physiology, examine the cells, systemic physiology, functions of organ system. There we're going to look at that different organ system. We have 11 organ systems. We're going to study all 11 of them throughout ANP 1 and 2 courses. So neurophysiology is mainly focused on the nervous system, different neurons, other aiding cells for the neurons, those how they're working and performing to maintaining that homeostasis. Then cardiovascular physiology, they're talking about that heart and blood vessels. Other one is pathophysiology. So this is actually the pathophysiology is examine the structural and functional changes in the body caused by disease. So I want you to study anatomy and physiology very well. The normal condition, what we going to study in this class, in the normal condition. I want you to be familiar with all the normal conditions, how they look like, how it should be your heart shape look like, what is the function for the heart, or what is the function for your kidney normal. Then you will know if you have any abnormalities are there. So the pathophysiology, don't worry about too much about pathophysiology right now. I just want you to study normal physiology at this moment. So when you go to nursing program, they have one course for pathophysiology. So they're going to train you. If you know the normal, if you see that that disorder in that sense. Then exercise physiology, changes in structure and functions caused by exercise. So Here we're going to study that structural and functional organization of human body, starting from that low level, which is the chemical level. So going from that smallest to highest. Highest is an organism. For example, here we're talking about human. We study about human physiology. That's why it's talking about this is we see that human. Maybe organisms like a fungi. Fungi is an organism. What is a bacteria is an organism. Dog, cat, plants. These all different organisms. But we're going to focus on human organism. If you break it down, organism, I'm going from that whatever you can see, but we can feel it. We can make ourselves as an example of this. A human organism, if we break it down, our body, we're going to see organ system. There are 11 organ system, like I mentioned. We're going to see everything later. From if I take one of the organ system, for example, the organ system here, three different things actually they given here organ system. Urinary system, also some books say excretory, part of the excretory system, nervous system, and the digestive system. Three of them they given here. Example, there are other ones, the muscular system, skeletal system, there are other ones are there. Then if I break it down, this organ system has what? There are they have one function for it. Mainly, if I look at that, what is that? Urinary system. Main function is what? Filtration, filtering that blood. Then a nervous system communication, signal, sending the signals to that different effectors and stuff. Communication is the one. Then here digestive system is the breaking down the food, absorption, things like that. But if I break it down, this organ system, there are different organs involved in that organ system. One of that organ is so one of the organ from that digestive system is the stomach. You all know that one. Another one is the small intestine or large intestine. These accessory organs like liver, gallbladder. So everything has their own function if you break it, but they are work as a one unit. So here, if you look at that nervous system, there are central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. We're going to see that later. Then this one of the organ, if you look at that, we all know that is a brain, is a control center. It stays in that skull, inside the cranial cavity. So this is a brain. So then if you look at that urinary system, one of the, you may think it as a kidney. Kidneys are one of the organ. Then other one is here is talking about that urinary bladder. That's holding that urine, the urine. So this is a muscular structure. So these are organ level, okay, organ. So don't confuse with everything starting with the organ, organism, organ system, or so just to write it down somewhere so you know what it is, which one is their functions. Then if I break it down, this for example stomach, they break it down into tissue level. Tissues are group of similar cells. That is the main, not group of cells, group of similar cells. I cannot put this nerve cells to this over here. That's not a tissue. It has to be, everything has to be same type of cells because it has to function what? Same way. There are four tissue types. We're going to go over epithelial, connective, muscular and nervous. Make sure you know that four of them, we're going to study details in chapter 4. Then another one, if you break it down, those tissues, you're going to see cells. So this is a functional, structural and functional unit of any living organism. Structural and functional unit of living organism. That's very important. So we are humans. We are very complex organism. We have tissues, we have organs, we have organ systems. It's very complex system. But some organism, there are only one cell, bacteria. So example, so one cell. Some of the fungi is yeast, there is only one cell. So this has, they have a structural, any organism to say we say is organism has to have at least one cell. The structural and functional unit of any living organism is called cell. So the cells can be different shape, different structure. The function can be different too. So here example given that epithelial cells, epithelial tissues made with what? Epithelial cells, nervous tissues made with the neuron, that is a cell. There are other cells are there, astrocytes, oligodendrocytes. This is a main cell for the signaling purpose. Then other one is a smooth muscle cell. This is a muscle cell. There are different types of muscle cells. For example, skeletal cells and what is the other one? Muscular, um, skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Okay, cardiac is only in that heart. So we're going to go details on that one later. Then now we break it down these cells. You're going to get this that atoms maybe can that you see that atoms and molecule, some of those structures you're going to study detailed DNA, then macromolecules, sucrose or fructose and things, then proteins. Then if you breaking down proteins, you see amino acids. Then breaking down again, you see that what some of those atoms break it down again, you see some electrons, protons, neutrons. These are all the things you can see that this is actually that structural and functional unit of human body. This is one major organs of the body. If you look at that spinal cord, which is a part of that nervous system. We talk about a little earlier that um, then brain is also part of that nervous system. Lung, that is a part of the respiratory system. Heart, cardiovascular system. Liver, it is part of that digestive. Gallbladder also. Pancreas, it can be act as a exocrine and endocrine gland. Kidneys, excretory. You don't see over here. You can see the but this behind this small intestine and large intestine. When we do dissection, you can clearly see these organs. We do dissection of fetal pig. In ANP2 especially, we all the systems, if you're going to look at that ANP2, we're going to see those things in that large intestine, urinary bladder, that is a excretory system part of it, spleen, lymphatic system, stomach, kidney, and small intestine and large intestine part of that digestive system. These are the different organs seen in our system. Now we're going to look at that different organ systems. So we see organ. Now we're going to look at the organ systems. This is the integumentary system. Integumentary system is what? Integumentary system is the skin. It's talking about the skin. Main functions of the skin. Look at that skin. Think about your skin. If you didn't have a skin, what happened? So you know that is a protection is one of them. Then regulate temperature, prevent water loss, and help produce vitamin D with the help of that sunlight. Then skin is your skin is one of the largest organ. That is, there are some accessory organs, nails, hair, what else? Sweat glands. Those are the accessory organs coming from that integumentary system. Then other one is skeletal system. What is the main function of the skeleton? Think about if you didn't have any skeleton, no bones. How can you sit somewhere? No. Can you walk? No. Can you chew something? It won't be that effective. So think about what are the functions you have it from that skeletal system, bones and joints. So then you know that if you didn't have that one, what happens? So mainly what they do, protection, support, then all these things I mentioned. Also one other thing, they produce blood cells, red blood cells, that red blood cells produce in what? Bone marrow, and also stored minerals and adipose fat cells. So they have bones consist of what? Bony structures, then what? Cartilages. Most of the pictures, when you look at that yellow, this pale color structure, that's the bone. This somewhere you can see the blue color structures, your intercostal cartilage and stuff. So those are the cartilages. Then ligaments. Ligaments is the one that connecting bone to bone. Then joints, these joints, or shoulder joint or knee joint, different joints. Then another one is the muscular system. Muscular system is the one that attach that bone to that skin. Sometimes they are mainly that muscular system. There are three different muscular system: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. These all things we see over here is a skeletal muscle which is connected to bone. So this one actually produce body movement. Without that one, we cannot move. Even though bones are there, but in this contraction of these muscle cells helps to move that bone from one place to another, do something. So the movement is the one of the thing, maintaining the posture and produce body heat. For example, you shiver when you have a what? Cold. So that is what? Maintaining the temperature consists of this mainly is skeleton. This attaches skeleton by that tendons. Tendons are the one that muscles attach to the bone. Tendons. Here ligaments are the one bone to bone attachment. It's like a string or that structure with attaching bone to bone. This one muscles to bone tendons. This nervous system consists of two different thing I mentioned: peripheral nervous system and central nervous system. So this is a major regulatory system that detects sensations and control movements. So they mainly, like I said, they have a brain, spinal cord, a nerve, sensory receptors. A nerve are the one coming out like this yellow color. Then receptors throughout this body, there are receptors. It's like antenna. Antenna is receive the changes and things and detect that one and sending that information to the brain. So endocrine system is another one. We start ANP2 from this part. Everything else what we covering in this class from NP2 we're going to start the endocrine system. So this endocrine system mainly controlling that growth, reproduction, metabolism, chemical reactions, other word is called name, and many other functions. It has a lot of glands. You can see pointing out here: thyroid gland, thymus, adrenal gland, or that. Ovary, testicles, all these things are examples of glands. They produce hormones. That's hormones for the functions of this system. Then another one is the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system, there are two different things. Cardio means what? Heart related. Heart. Vascular means what? Vessels. So the heart and I will take another vessels, blood vessels. It can be arteries or vein, capillaries. These are the things. This conduct that blood throughout that taking to that throughout the body. Heart actually what they do, they pumping the blood. So then it will go through that arteries and veins. Veins are mainly bringing the blood back to the heart. Arteries are taking the blood away from heart. Other system is the lymphatic system. So lymphatic system are mainly that consist of lymph, so lymph vessels. So the green structures you can see lines. So that's the lymphatic vessels. Conduct that taking lymph. That's a fluid part of that. It's actually part of the blood. Actually coming from blood. So absorb is maintaining the tissue fluid balance in that tissue level. So absorb dietary fat from the digestive tract. So they have some lymph nodes. Mainly you see that cervical region, axillary region, growing regions. Some of them are here. So these are the places you see lymph nodes. And lymphatic organs. One of the big organ, that largest organ is the spleen. Next one is the reproductive system, which mainly those organs above that diaphragm. There is a wall over here, muscular wall, which is called diaphragm. All the respiratory organs you see mainly above that diaphragm. The biggest organ, the lungs, stays in that thoracic cavity. So here lungs, there are two lungs we have both sides. Then that windpipe, which is the trachea. Trachea branches into bronchi, is going into bronchioles and primary, secondary, and things going into that lungs. Then here you can see larynx, voice box, the pharynx, this region over here. Then here that nose, nasal cavity, you breathe in, they go through this, going into that lungs. So main function of this word, exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. We're going to go over that one in the respiratory system in the next with other course, MB2 course. Digestive system. Digestive system in mainly these organs are stays in that thoracic and most of the organs in that abdominal cavity. Is the two openings, mouth, oral cavity over here. Then the anus in that over here. There are two cavities with what? One long tube. the structure is going to change based on where you see that stomach is part of that. For example, stomach is part of that tube, but its shape is a little bit different. It's bigger. Then every part is a different structure, so the function going to be changes. So you see different structures, small intestine, large intestine, the stomach. This all is a one long tube. So main function is actually digestion and absorption of what nutrients and eliminate waste. Then next one is a urinary system. Most of the organs in that abdominal pelvic cavity over here remove waste products from the blood and regulate pH, iron balance, water balance, balance. Main organs are what? Kidneys, ureter, urinary bladder, urethra. Then next one is the reproductive system. Reproductive system is the only system we study as a two different system, female and male reproductive system. They are both different organs. They both produce different hormones. They have different functions. So this is the only system we study in male and female. You see throughout there is no two different systems. So we're going to see what are the these organs functions and what are the hormones produced by these structures. So mainly here ovaries, you see that ovaries can produce that some hormones. Also testes, we're going to see that later, all these structures in that ANP2. Next one, we're going to go over that characteristics of life. So there are 6 characteristics that include several key features that define living organisms. Organization refers to the specific interrelationship and functions among part of an organism. So metabolism is actually that the body's ability to use energy to perform vital functions. Thus, simply we say that all chemical reactions happening in our system. Responsiveness is another characteristic. So ability to sense changes in that interior and exterior environment and adjust. So in order to do that, cell-to-cell communication is very necessary. For example, right now is cold temperature. So our body actually detect and figure out that changes the body that make our internal conditions stable based on that what are the changes happening. So it's always respond to that environment. Growth is another characteristics of that living things. So you can think about that one point we were a cell, then grow and become that beautiful adult taking this course right. So development changes in an organism over time. So you can think about you went to the kindergarten or first grade. From that point to this, a lot of changes happening in our system. Then differentiation. Uh, so 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 that our system is developed in the beginning, so that we were one cell actually. So it will become that two cell, then again divided into cell divide and making more and more become that more and more cells. So they become differentiated into a certain function for that one. For example, everything came from one cell, but your heart is function different than your what skin. So they differentiated into different things. Morphogenesis, morpho changes, shape of the tissue, organs, entire organism changes. Reproduction, that is one of the things, characteristics of life. For formation of new cells or new organism, is a development. So this one, like I said here, one cell become two and become multiply and reproduce. Another thing is the homeostasis. Like I said in the beginning, this is very important. I really want you to go over this this terminology, understand clearly what it is. Don't memorize it, just understand what it is. So it is actually what is maintained. This homeostasis is maintained throughout, uh, through different feedback mechanism. We're going to study a little bit later that one. This, what is this actually? Is a process by which the body maintains a relatively constant internal environment. So, for example, various conditions like temperature or pH, um, that fluctuates. You can see that it can fluctuate around that set point, which is ideal or normal value. This should be that normal value, but it can go up and down, but always bring it back to that point. So where the conditions are optimally helpful and stable. This is the one actually stable condition. The set point represent the physiological value the body aim to maintain, while the normal range composes the restricted value that support overall health and stability. That's very important. Um, so why this helpful? Helpful means the homeostasis helps make sure the body system function effectively despite external changes. Whatever the temperature outside, but you be going to maintain that body temperature. So, so here you can see that feedback loops. So homeostasis is maintained through feedback loops that adjust process based on outcomes. Okay, there are two types we're going to study: negative and positive feedback. The this feedback loop, doesn't matter positive or negative. The feedback loop consists of receptor. This mainly what they do, they detect the changes in a variable. Then another one is the control center, which sets the ideal value and process input from the receptor. Then another thing, effector, which generate a response to adjust the variable. Then next one is a stimulus. Stimulus is a deviation from the set point that triggers the process. So any stimulus, your system can be detect that one. If it changes the pH, if acidity is increasing, or that pH, temperature is going up. So all these things can be detected by the system and bring it back to that normal set point. So we're going to go over that negative feedback mechanism. This most of the, if you look at the feedback mechanism, most system in the body regulates by that negative feedback. Temperature is one of them. Pressure, this and the temperature. This is one of the main thing, and we're going to see that. So negative feedback regulate most body system by counteracting changes in a variable such as the body temperature. That's one of the example. It works to decrease the change, helping the body return to the set point and maintain homeostasis. So that temperatures that maybe is increasing, send that receptors figure out that one, sending to that control center, which is the brain. Then effector is going to that effector, then response will come. Then you sweating, maybe you sweating, what happened? You cool down. So it's going to maintaining that temperature by that. So for example, here you can see that when playing a tennis, the body temperature rises due to increase the muscle activity. The negative feedback mechanism helps regulate this by detecting the temperature increases through receptors. It's going to be receptors on the skin can figure out sweating and things for the so the temperature is increasing. The receptors figure out that one. Then the brain acting as a control center trigger effectors like a sweat gland. Sweat glands are throughout your skin. So triggers the sweat glands to cool the body down, returning the temperature to its normal set point. This process maintains the homeostasis by preventing overheating. So here, changes in changes the blood pressure during exercise. What happened? During exercise, the body experiences the changes that affect homeostasis, such as increased oxygen demand by muscles. To maintain homeostasis, the body uses a negative feedback mechanism to regulate blood pressure. As muscle demand more oxygen, blood pressure increases, which helps improve blood flow to tissue. This change pushes the blood pressure outside of its resting range, creating a border set point for the time being. Once exercise stopped, the body adjusts through the same feedback loop to return the blood pressure to its normal resting range. Make sure the homeostasis is restored. So that's what we see here. So when you do exercise, what? When you demand your muscles demanding more oxygen, so your blood, that the heart is pumping more and more blood, taking that oxygen from that, what is that, for the respiratory system working harder. So getting that oxygen, and then they restore that, maintaining the blood pressure later. So what is the positive feedback mechanism? This amplifies deviation from normal, just like that you see in that negative feedback mechanism, pushing the response further from the homeostasis. While it can be beneficial in the process like a childbirth, lactation, blood clotting, that's also positive, normal cases. So this all can be, it can be harmful when it leads to uncontrolled condition. For example, after hemorrhage, blood pressure drops, causing the heart ability to pump blood to, to decrease, which worsen the situation. In these cases, the response continue beyond the set point, potentially leading to severe outcome or death if the original stimulus is not addressed. So those cases, this positive feedback mechanism can be harmful. So it is a positive feedback mechanism, more contraction, more oxytocin, more the contraction here that contraction, urine stretches stimulus sensory neurons. Then that's more contraction, more oxytocin is produced. Then that more contraction, then stretching that this going to that brain control center, that pituitary gland, they produce what? They produce that oxytocin to contraction more. So it will go happening is a positive feedback. One is going up, then also something going up. Both of them in that one direction, going upward direction. Other one, you see temperature negative feedback mechanism. Temperature goes up. You want to bring the temperature down. So until that labor, the birth is happened, is continuously happening. So terminology and body plane, that's mainly for the lab. If we coming to that lab, we're going to go over this all things in the lab. The anatomical position is very important. Like I said, this is a human anatomy and physiology. We're going to see all the structure, terms, and planes for human, especially when you look in that anatomical position. So this is very important. This all the terminology we using based on this anatomical position. So anatomical position means the body should be erect, standing straight, face forward. Forward means if you are a nurse, you're diagnosing something, or you're scanning something, testing something, so you going to use this terminology based on that. Your observer, not yours, your observer. Now, whoever your patient in that case. Face forward, feet together, palm face forward. So the body positions, supine position or prone position. Supine position is face upward. That means you're looking on lying on the table or bed, you're looking on the roof. Prone position, lying face downward position. This is all very important for different what is the diagnostic purpose, and some of that some of that diagnosis, like I said, that also technology wise they use certain things, for example scanning and other things. So we use this kind of positions, the different positions we use. Then a superior, what is this? That is a cephalic. Cephalic means towards the head region. Superior, superior, this way, superior. Your head is superior than anything else. Inferior, everything else inferior compared to that head. So one also other thing, this directional terms mainly you related to something. Okay, your hand is what? Inferior compared to your head, but your head is superior compared to your hands. So it's going to be using that related to that other term, the other organ or structure. Medial versus lateral. Medial is midpoint. Think about there is an imaginary line. Everything towards this midline is a medial. Everything away from the midline is lateral. Proximal versus distal. Proximal is the one closer to that joint, wherever this joint. Mainly we use this terminology for the limbs. For example, that proximal, this is the upper limb, this is a shoulder, this humerus is what? Humerus is more the proximal compared to phalanges. Phalanges are what? Distal. Superficial, deep. Skin is what? Superficial. Deep is bone. Bone is deep compared to that. But if you compare that bone to heart, heart is what? For example, that rib cage is what? Superficial. That is that superior, that superficial compared to that heart. You know how deep it is. Then anterior and posterior. Anterior is the one, this anterior. The thing back is posterior. Also we call the ventral. The wherever the belly button is ventral. Dorsal is the back. For this is very important. Any human, the other than human vertebra, for example, dogs standing like this is the anterior of the dog. This is the caudal region. This is the posterior, but the belly button region is over here. This is a ventral. This is a dorsal. It's a different. You know, that's why this one, these terms and planes we going to go over related to that human. So make sure you look at these terminologies from this table. So also these some of these things, what are the upper limbs are there, then lower limbs, what are different structures. We're going to go deep. For example, one of the pectoral region, the chest region, pectoral muscles. We're going to go over that. We're going to see pelvic girdles over here, Paul Singuin, all these things. Make sure you take a look at that. You don't have to memorize everything, but at least you, oh, what are these things? So what is the talus? So what is that angle actually? So these are the things just to get a get an idea of these terms. In the back portion, so now is subdivision or divisions of abdomen. Abdomen is abdominal region is big. There are a lot of organs involved in the region. This is a thoracic region over here. So especially most of them related to that digestive system. If you look at that, small intestine, large intestine is a long. They all inside here in this abdominal cavity. So make it more easier for the medical workers, so they can communicate and finding the things, diagnostic or scanning, things like that, easy for them to divide and things. So for example, if you go to want to do the scanning on abdominal cavity, abdominal organs. So if you don't have specifically say where it is, they have to scan all these things. So you're going to stay on that table for all day. But now if you look at the doctor's notes, they say, oh, right, hypochondriac region. This is only region they do that ultrasound or that ultrasound. Mainly that's so they do it. So they don't have to look for every parts. So that's make it more that easy and faster that faster the diagnosis and things. So here this portion, that one that so for this quadrant is what? For this portion, this is a right, like I said, this is a patient right, this is the left side, not your right and left. Make sure you know that one. This is the right side, the left side. This is the upper, this is the lower. This one is going to be what? Right upper quadrant. This is a low, that left upper quadrant. This one what? That right. This one is a lower quadrant. This one is a left lower quadrant. So that's the way they're going to write it down. This one. Then it's not you want now you want to make a more little bit more regions. There are 9 regions. There are 4 quadrants, 9 regions. 9 regions are right hypochondriac region. This is the one. This first start with here umbilical region. You all know that one, umbilical region, middle portion. From above that, epigastric. Epi means what? Above. Above. Then hypo means what? Below, hypogastric region. Now this everything is the right side exactly like in the left side. If you know this one of these is you can only change your right to left. That's it. This one right hypochondriac. This one is what? Left hypochondriac region. Here is in that rib cage. There is a lot of cartilage over here in the intercostal that cartilages are over here. We're going to see later that one, rib cage and stuff. So here right lumbar region. If you look at the back of that vertebra, you see that here in this region of the vertebra we call the lumbar region. So this is a lumbar region, this is a iliac region, the right iliac. So this is going to be left iliac. So mainly if I ask you questions like urinary bladder is located in which region? You only see over here, that should be what? Hypogastric region. So for example, gallbladder. Gallbladder can be mainly seen that you are right hypochondriac region. Stomach in this two regions over here. So these are the questions. You may get it. Make sure you're familiar with this quadrant and region. Then you see that planes. Sagittal planes. Sagittal planes give that equal right and left portion of the body. Frontal or coronal divide that anterior and posterior section. Transverse or horizontal that divides the body into superior and inferior section. Oblique, that is like this. It's not right angle like that. It's like this oblique. Sometimes you see some models oblique cut or planes. You can see. So you can see different things over here. So this one is the sagittal. You get somebody cut it this through. This only that one side is gone. Left side is here, right somebody took it. So this one. So you can see that one. Then also here, transverse. Somebody take the superior part. The inferior part is here. This one, we can see that anterior, somebody take that anterior portion from this person, then only left with that posterior portion. So that's the coronal section. The longitudinal section. Longitudinal section is what? This. So this is the one oblique section. Then body cavities. There are main body cavities, dorsal and ventral body cavities. In the dorsal body cavity, there are two cranial and vertebra. In cranial cavity, house for the brain is located in the cranial cavity. Spinal cord stays in the vertebral cavity. So in the thoracic cavity, there are the thoracic cavity. You remember thoracic cavity I showed you before, where it's at lungs and heart is located there inside the thoracic cavity. Inside they divide into pleural cavity. Then that mainly inside the pleura means what? There's something to do with the lungs. Lung stays in the pleural cavity, and medial is a mediastinum, which contain the heart, some blood vessels, thymus, trachea, esophagus. All these things stays there. Then abdominal pelvic cavity. This is abdominal cavity and pelvic cavity. So break it down into two: abdominal pelvic cavity. Abdominal cavity we talked about earlier. Most of the digestive organs stays in the abdominal cavity. Pelvic cavity mainly for that reproductive and excretory or urinary system organs, urinary bladder, urethra, and stuff. So those are the cavities. The main cavities are what? Dorsal and ventral cavities. So two main cavities. The dorsal cavity again what? Divided into 1 and 2. This one mainly only one thing, a brain. Then vertebral cavity divided into 1, 2. So here this is a ventral cavity. All this purple structure, that's a ventral cavity. This one. This is what? The green color structure is the dorsal cavity. Here is the brain. This is the spinal cord inside here. This is this is a lateral view. This is the anterior view. You can see that how they are arranged. Pleural cavity, mediastinum, where the blood vessels and heart located, lungs located here. In the abdominal cavity, you see mainly what? Stomach, liver, large and small, small intestine, rectum, then the pelvic cavity, see that reproductive organs, urinary bladder, and serous membrane. So serous membranes actually cover the organs of the body cavities and line the cavity. Okay. That is they given the exam how they representing that. When you say this serous membrane, is very hard to understand how they making that two layers, what the meaning. But this from this example you can clearly understand. We take a water balloon, okay, just to make a water balloon, you put your fist into the water balloon. So when you put the fist into the water balloon, there is a two covers. Think about this is a one of the outer covering. Then there is an inner covering over here closer to that fist itself. So this is called, one closer to here is called visceral. One outside this red coloring, the covering called parietal. So there are two coverings. So that is then inside the filled with the serous fluid. So that's the way look like the serous membrane covering these organs. So for example, pleural cavity, parietal pleural or visceral pleural. Inside there is a fluid inside that cavity. So pericardium, cardium means what? Heart. Peri means around, that membrane around that heart. Then pericardial fluid inside that cavity. So you can see pleural, pericardial cavity, peritoneum, that is around the abdominal organs. Organs inside abdominal pelvic cavity, each one covered by that serous membrane. These are all example of the serous membrane. Another one, peritoneum. So this is a mesentery as a region of the double folded visceral peritoneum. This is the mainly see for the posterior abdominal pelvic walls attached to that region. So that's very important, that mesentery provide a pathway for nerve and blood vessels to reach the digestive organs. So the retroperitoneal, which is behind the peritoneum, organs or parts of organs that only have a peritoneum on their peritoneal cavity side. It include kidneys. We talk about the kidneys are behind that stomach, and that most of the organs we see in that large intestine and small intestine. So all these things is the example of that retroperitoneal. So inflammation of serous membrane, pericarditis. Anytime you see that itis, that means inflammations. So these are all the things you can see different inflammations in that different membrane, serous membrane. So this one, I would like so you can look at that one, as there is no case study for this class actually. Then biomedical research. So biomedical research is driven by shared characteristics between living organisms, such as the basic cell structure found in single-celled bacteria. This research advanced medical knowledge, including human surgery and treatment techniques. Then strict so also it's strict ethical laws govern biomedical research to minimize the suffering, and medical practices and technologies are constantly evolving based on ongoing research finding. So it's a lot of research going in this field, biomedical research. So if you're interested in the research, you can take a biomedical degree, and you can go into the biomedical research labs. For example, you can do breast cancer research, gene expression analysis, or plants, fungi, a lot of different things you can do it for the biomedical research. Okay. I was doing that triple negative breast cancer research. I was doing gene expression analysis on the triple negative breast cancer. Okay, that is it for this chapter.